It genuinely has been quite some time since I made a minifigure mock, so guess what today's video is going to be? Hello there! Even though it would be really funny if this video turned out to be anything other than a minifigure scout mock, I do have a few sets back here labelled in my drawers that I do want to either build as a set, or in this case of the V35 speeder that came in the Master Builders Mos Eisley, which is mostly broken up and used for parts for the Lego City. Take a Lego model from a set and turn it minifigure scout, because this is actually a lot easier than you might think. I don't even think you saw that. Just some sort of ground rules, I guess, before we get into the actual model itself. While I build it though, it's quite a quick build, so chances are by the time I fully explain myself, I'll probably be able to show you the model. Minifigure scale on the Master Moldy channel does relate to a 145 minifigure scale, which personally is my choice of scale because it's the scale that quite a few Lego models are scaled to. And there's usually two popular choices in the Lego Star Wars community. First off, we have the 145 that I do like to use, and it's the smaller of the two popular scales, but it relates to the height of a Lego minifigure. The height of a Lego minifigure, if it was scaled up to be 180 centimeters, would make Lego 145 scale. But we all know Lego minifigures aren't actually in any sort of proportion, so this does complicate things, because when you're trying to make something like the Speed Champions race cars, for instance, they are in a 130 scale, which is of course the other popular scale. There is no real reason I prefer the 145 over 130, if I'm being honest. There's nothing exactly that either of them hold over each other. You could say the 130 allows for more space and a bit more detail to be created, whereas the 145 allows for saving a few Lego parts. And between adding more parts to the mix or saving parts, when you're planning a minifigure scale Star Destroyer at 100k subs, I think I know which one I'd want to do. I also like, and I don't think I've really spoken about this on the channel, I also like 145 because it is just over 3 times bigger than the micro scale that Lego use. And actually, this is the advent build that inspired this whole video. For those of you that don't know, perhaps you've just found this video in your recommended, in which case, thank you for choosing to watch this video. But I have been opening the 2022 advent calendar every single day of December because we reviewed the 2024 one earlier this year. And though I realise that's not very popular, you would all much rather watch me open the advent over Christmas. So I'm definitely taking that into consideration next year. I think it's been really nice because the 2022 advent calendar is the only advent calendar I really have missed, especially when you're looking at the recent Star Wars. I might not have them all, but I have all of the Christmas sweaters and some of the advents before the Christmas sweaters were introduced. I digress. That's not the point. What were we talking about? Minifigure scale. So 145 is actually 3 times bigger than the micro scale you see with the likes of the Home One. Most of these ships are 1 to 144 scale, and it's exactly 3.2 between a 2-stud high minifigure and an actual minifigure compared to whatever it is in 130 scale. And whilst it's still scales, you can still do 130 and 144. No one's going to stop you. It does make it a bit harder to compare the sizes of the minifigures. I am a math magician, as I normally call myself. I do have a maths degree, and I just like when the numbers add up. And in this case, they do. But the reason I am rebuilding this ship is because the ship itself, I've seen basically 2 people that have looked at this for scale both say that it is a 1 to 44 scale, which is so close to 145. And no offense to them, because everyone has their different scale. But if we're taking the height of a minifigure for 180 centimeters, this should be 25 studs long to minifigure scale, at least according to what it says on the Star Wars wiki and in the few books that it's been mentioned. There comes another problem with the Not a problem with the LEGO Star Wars community, but a difficulty when you're trying to scale ships, because not everyone is reading the same books, and some people do have their own headcanon, which is completely fine no matter what the rest of the Star Wars community tells you. You can honestly believe whatever you want about the ships, as long as you're not trying to convince other people to accept what you believe. It's not going to be a problem for anyone. In fact, that's the reason that I moved over into LEGO from Star Wars initially. Many of you won't know, especially if you've clicked on this video for the first time, that I initially was making Star Wars videos here on YouTube. I found the LEGO community, all you guys watching this video, to be much more accepting. It's ironic considering the vocal majority of some of these fan bases. I myself use a spreadsheet because I don't want to sit here and crunch the numbers all the time. If you've seen my recent video finding the cheapest way to get Lego, it does get a bit mathsy, and there is a table at the end of the video to break down all the numbers, but that takes quite a while to do for every single vehicle I want to build. So instead, I have a spreadsheet that I put in the length, width, and the height, I believe, of some of these ships. Almost instantly, it feeds me out the Lego dimensions. If you do want to see how I got the 25 studs long, I'll leave a video or two on the end screen breaking down the values I use. And I know at least one of our members, Soybean, has made their own table as well. All you have to do is change the values for your different scales. You don't have to do 145 or 130. You don't even have to be consistent with your scales. You can do whatever you want to. And that is the real beauty of Lego. Not the Lego sets we make, but the scales we use along the way. So how long is the original model? Because I've said it's meant to be 25 to my scale. That's what I am aiming for. And the model itself is falling apart in my hands. 20 studs long. I don't know exactly how wide it is. The width actually seems to line up to what we see on our screens, but I'll have an image on screen of the model straight from the clearest depiction, which is probably not going to be A New Hope and would probably be like a visual dictionary or something. And as you can see by the nose of it, it's actually a nice clean pointy ship, which is really nice, because usually these ships are rounded off towards the end, and that makes it quite hard when you're dealing with Lego that have very straight curves. Yes, you can use a few of the rounded off ones, but that really limits what you can build compared to using some of the straight elements. But with Lego's official model, which you can now see on screen, they decided to go with a few different sized slopes, which is, it's an interesting take, because as you saw earlier, it is just one straight line at the front. So the slope should be all the same length, and they are missing a bit of point. They've rounded off this speeder, which, fair enough, the speeder can really be modified however Lego deem to create a better playset, because at the end of the day, that's what they're making. They don't want any slopes at the end to fall off during play, and they want it to be as sturdy as possible. However, on this channel, we do like a bit of accuracy. So I'm going to be replacing the nose, and instead of using these 1x3s and 1x2 slope bricks that Lego use, I'm going to be switching them out for 1x4s. If you are doing the maths, first off, it's Christmas. What are you doing maths for? Just leave the maths to me, and you sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. But if you have done the maths, you'll know that switching a switching a 1x3 and a 1x2 to 1x4s already adds up to 3 of the studs that we're going to be needing to expand our ship. The reason that is really nice is because when I counted the 20 studs that this model is, which I don't know exactly what scale this will be, I'll have it on screen now. I didn't realize on the back there were some brackets, so that already adds up to another stud, which puts this very close to 145 scale. Whilst I am building this model, I would like to bring up the fact that I don't think these style of videos, while I'm explaining as I'm building, will be going on for too long on the channel. And that's nothing to do with any sort of views or any of that, but more so to do with the interactive aspect of live streams. Because I said when we were doing live streams over October and November that I wanted basically to do more of them on the channel, and I think this would be a great opportunity to have more discussions rather than me talking to a camera and waiting, in this case, like a few weeks for your comments and replies. I think it'd just be nicer if we can have more conversations. And if you saw the recent community poll, you'll know that live streams are moving from Monday, which was really nice to start off with because it limited the crowds and allowed us to just explore the whole live streaming aspect together. And that's not to say I won't be streaming on Monday anymore, because there are some days where perhaps the new date isn't possible and we will be going back to Mondays or picking another day. But live streams in the new year will be moved to a Saturday, so hopefully I can see more of yous on the live stream, and that would just lead to a bigger discussion. Whilst we're on the topic of streams, actually, this one's for my members that have got this far into the video. Would you be interested? You know what? I'll throw this open to everyone. Would you be interested in perhaps some member exclusive streams where we can do something that's not particularly Lego, but perhaps play some Star Wars games, play some Lego games? Lego Fortnite just released a new game, Brick Life, which I played yesterday, and it's a really fun game. If that's something that would interest you, just let me know down in the comments. My actual minifigure scale video was released so long ago, I'm pretty certain it was back when I was still raising my voice just for the mic to get me to pick up, even though I was then turning it up as I was editing it, so you could hear the fact that I was shouting. So maybe that's due for a re-record and I can go more into depth. Some things have changed since that video. The video still holds up. It's a really well recorded video, but I'm sure most of you won't want to sit through like 20 odd minutes of me raising my voice, even though that's basically what videos still are. I'll definitely look into re-recording that in the new year, because I think that can be really, really helpful just for people that are introduced into minifigure scales. And the fact that minifigure scale isn't the same thing from everyone that says it. It's sort of like all these best sets of the year videos that you'll see flooding out in December, where people are trying to, no offense to anyone by the way that is making this style of video, but trying to lighten their workload with things like best of videos. And I'm sure I was doing it last year. This needs focus. But thankfully this year I'm in a position where I can continue building sets into December and get a few recordings ahead so that you've got things to watch over the holidays. This is basically a live stream, so feel free to let me know any plans you've got for the holidays down in the comments. I'd love to read through them all. Perhaps at some point I will return to build the Mos Eisley Cantina Master Builders set, because if I had room to display it, I think it looked really, really cool. But the problem with Lego is just that, having the room to display it. I'm pretty sure I still have the stickers for this somewhere. So if you weren't aware, I did a video a while ago now, and quite some while ago, and it was removing all the stickers from my sets, and here we have the Speeder stickers. Rather than remove them, because some stickers like the Master Builder series sets and UCS sets can be quite expensive in the aftermarket, I transferred them to some grease-proof paper using tweezers so I didn't get any hand oils and that on them, though I'm definitely just going to pick them up with my fingers now. I should have used the brick separator. And what that allows me to do is just reuse these stickers, not only if I am rebuilding their sets, because I have like 5 different sticker sheets for the 501st battle pack, and that's not including the ones I used on my mock, but mainly in case I need them for any other sorts of builds. Like we have a few stickers here. We've got some from the Thor mech, which is like this light blue electricity fiery something over a grey brick or a grey outline, and I think they could definitely be used in some sort of Mandalorian forge perhaps. So there's definitely the ability to use these elsewhere. I like how in the space of 18 months I've gone from hating on stickers to actually preferring them to printed bricks. Star Wars fact time. Like I said, I was I don't want to say Star Wars YouTuber, but that's technically, I was doing Star Wars on YouTube. Basically what I was doing. But my head is filled with a bunch of random facts, sticker, and just little bits about Star Wars that I don't tend to be able to get out in a Lego video. So Did you know that Owen and Bru Lars had, I don't know if it shows up on the wiki actually, I'll try and get a photo of their speeder. I don't think we ever see their speeder actually, but they did have, it might have been in a deleted scene from A New Hope. I will do some research to try and find it, but Owen and Bru actually had an V35 speeder in their collection. It was what they used to go out in, which is how Luke got the hand-me-downs of the X34 land speeder. I'm rubbish with names if you couldn't tell already. In A New Hope, it's sort of set up like they only have the one speeder, and when Luke goes out on it, no one else can. They actually had a family speeder, and I believe this thing sits at least 2, if not 3 people inside. I think there's 2 seats in the front, and then I guess because Lego have put a minifigure on the back, you can also get a minifigure driving the top. I don't know if this is more like a family car or if this is perhaps what they use to go out. You know those tractors that spray the crops as they go? This is the complete opposite of that, and instead the machine just sucked in the moisture as it went past. That is my headcanon for what this now does. The Lars did have one of these speeders. I don't think it looked much like this. Knowing Star Wars, they will probably try to make it at least a little different to one that's already shown up. I don't know why Lego didn't connect the bracket with the tile and leave the 1x1 tile on the second half of the bigger bracket. What also interests me is the instructions I'm using for this, rather than going back to the Lego ones, because I can't remember where this is built in the set. I've actually taken these off Rubricable. Somebody has uploaded the instructions for just this speeder, and based on the fact that I haven't needed any extra parts or am not having a ton of these pieces left over, I think they've taken it straight from the original instructions, which is really interesting because I've had my fair share of instructions that have been disallowed for being too close to the original model. Alright, I take that back. They use 2 1x1 plates, which might be different to the original model. By the way, when I bring up Rubricable in a video, this is by no means a way to try and shun them. I think Rubricable's service is great, but I know I've had the odd comment from some of the moderators over there trying to make it into a big thing. It can get annoying sometimes, but overall I think it's a pretty good site. Alright, a lot of times it can get annoying because it is quite a bit of work if you do want to submit mocks and that. At the end of the day, I'm choosing to submit my instructions. And with the speeder built, it's time to get into the close-up. Here is the official Lego model that we will be improving and minifigure scaling in today's video. In fact, I haven't even put on the cockpit properly. We'll set it back to how it is, and as you can see, the nose is definitely quite a bit rounded off. Now, I was taking a little look on the Wikipedia page of this, and it says by the 15th year of the Galactic Empire, yada yada yada. Then 5 years later, which is the time of A New Hope, Owen and Bru Lars still owned one of these land speeders, which is all good. But I want you to pay attention to the next line. The V35 was characterized by a sharply angular nose. I don't know about you, but this nose doesn't look too sharp. I mean, I don't think I could poke myself and stab myself in the finger with this. Anyway, the reason this is sitting on the right-hand side of your screen is this video was inspired by this build in the 2022 Advent Calendar, which the more I open sets, the more I think all of these relate to some sort of playset. This was around the time where, well, perhaps a few years after the Master Builders series set had come out. And similar builds we've got in the set include the Republic class Acclamator, which is now actually a set, and 2022 would have been about the time they started work on it. So it's really interesting, but this is not 1/45 scale. As you saw earlier, this is scale, which I still haven't worked it out, but we've still got all the stickers from the official set. So the first thing we're going to do is really simple. This build itself is actually really simple. I might whack up instructions for members perhaps, but even then I don't think instructions really are needed. So you can follow along with this video, and we're going to focus on these front bits for now because we want to turn these 2 elements into a double 1x4 slope to keep that point going. And perhaps I could have picked a cleaner element there, but if we do this, you'll notice that there is one brick missing at the back, which will just be a hollow gap in this, and we could, you know, move it back, mess it around. That would work out quite nicely. But what I'm actually going to do is fill that in with a 1x4 brick. Now, if you only want to make this change and don't want to do the later change that we are about to make, then perhaps this will be all right. But you'll see in a second. I'll actually also be removing this brick in just a second. So we're going to do the same thing to the other side, and this brings it to one stud. I thought it was going to be 2 studs away, but it turns out there are some engines on the back of this speeder. So this turns it 1 stud away from minifigure scale. And yes, the nose might be a little pointy compared to the cockpit. Perhaps that's why they rounded off the corner, but this is just so much more accurate to the source material, and I think it actually looks really, really cool. Just to put this into perspective, by the way, this is 1/45 scale, which is the same scale I've built all my other speeders, including Luke's Landspeeder. This is the size difference between these two ships, which I think is crazy. Seeing the difference between these two, that's, well, it's over double the size of Luke's Landspeeder. I think it's almost double the size of the X34, which is definitely the family speeders of speeders. But we're not here to look at Luke's Landspeeder. We're here to make this minifigure scale. So 1 stud, where are we going to get the 1 stud from? Well, if you take a look towards the back here of the cockpit, it doesn't quite look like the actual version should. You can see we've got the top bit sticking out. We've got the cockpit behind them. But what about the gap in between the two? I feel like they haven't really left a lot of space. So we are going to be moving the cockpit 1 forward. But to do that, we have to completely change the rest of the speeder. And actually, we don't have to move these 1x1 bricks, because the extra brick we need is on the sides here. You know what? Starting off this video, I thought it was going to be just an easy fix, but this is all we're doing to the nose. So I think I'll definitely upload instructions to members for this speeder, especially with that parts list that will make it so much easier to build. So we are not only changing the front, but also the back now of this side panel. There's no reason to fill out this side bit, though if you do, of course, you can really make it your own. You could probably put a 1x1 tile just in the side there if you really wanted to, but we are going to be extending these side bits. Instead of a 2x3, they're 2x4s, just to cover the gap quite nicely. And we're going to be doing this on both of the sides. And actually, we're also going to be moving this forward so that we can get the cockpit forward. I know it seems like a lot, but we're only changing the odd bricks here and there. Let's not forget to change any of these. And then you also end up with a few spare elements that perhaps you can replace dependent where you've got these bricks. What we've done so far is modify the front, bring it 1 forward, swap out the slopes, and also then move the cockpit 1 forward, which we will also need to move this 1x4 element forward as well. But that leaves us with a gap in the middle here, and I have the perfect way we can fill that up. So initially I was taking a look at these 1x6 elements, and I've actually taken the design that LEGO used at the back to get this whole back area flipped upside down with this 1x2 round plate and these 1x1s with the pins. And I think it's a really cool stud reversal technique, and we want to get the window fading out and the orangey yellow fading in. Now, I don't own any orangey yellow slopes. Yep, double checked, there are none in my collection, so this orange will have to do. But when we put them like this, not only does that make a really nice diagonal, which definitely is Master Builders worthy, it doesn't actually slope up to the sides. There's no real way to show this. I guess from the front you can see it sticks out like 2 ears, and we don't want that. This is a Master Builders model. So how would LEGO do this if they were looking into it? Well, we do have some 1x5 white plates, which are a bit thinner, and if we could stud reversal them with some with one 1x4 plate on top. I think that could work pretty well. There's a slight problem that they don't connect exactly how the 1x2 round plate does. There's a bit more of a gap, but it should still work for this model. And by placing them on some jumper tiles to get that slight angle, we can then place the cockpit back, and I think it looks pretty cool. Now, the speeder does stick up another stud, but this is exactly 20, I say exactly, it is technically 24.6 studs, so we could always expand these out by one as well. But if you look very, very closely, the back of these top bits do stick out enough to call it 25, exactly 25 studs, and this is now 1:45 minifigure scale. I still can't get over how big it looks compared to Luke's Landspeeder. So I guess this is it, the final LEGO Star Wars mock of 2024. We started with Vader's TIE Advance. Just to compare, this speeder is slightly longer than Vader's TIE Advance, which I still can't believe how big this speeder is. But I think it's been a really fun mock building year on this channel, and I cannot wait to see and to build some of these live with you next year. I've got something planned in January, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out, and check out the mock playlist I have on screen now. But let me know what you think of this model. I definitely like it a lot better when it's pointy. I just wish we had a cockpit to go with it. May the bricks be with you always.